the second age of reason, I have a passing interest in economy things. And I just thought I'd share with you something that was true when I was a child. We had our own money as children. Not American money, like coins and currency. No, we didn't have that. Well, eventually we did. We were able to get allowances from our parents. But that money was not very useful to us because the only place you could use it is like in a store. And a lot of the things that we did had nothing to do with stores. So that money, and if you would use that money for the transactions that we did, the parents would really get upset. I mean, you spent your allowance on, So we had to come up with our own exchange, our own money, our own currency. And like any self-organizing economy, the currency was based on something that was regional in our area, in our neighborhood. We had lots of trees, a lot of trees that had nuts on them of various kinds, which is pretty strange, but it was a nice little neighborhood. And the most common tree was elm. Now, elm doesn't have nuts. They have little teeny, like, paper seeds that are useless, worthless and useless paper seeds. But the next tree that was the most common was oak. And oak trees have nuts on them called acorns. So those were the smallest measure of trade that we would use would be acorns. Because the trees were everywhere, and all you had to do was reach down and pick up acorns. And of course you were in competition with the squirrels, but still it gave it a little bit of value. The second unit of measure was hickory nuts. Hickory was a little harder to come by because we didn't find them commonly on the ground. They were usually by chain link fences. Chain link fences, you had to climb up the chain link fence and then reach up and hope you could reach this branch and get the little seeds or nuts off of it and then peel them so that you had a real nut, a hickory nut. Shake bark hickory it was called. I didn't know what it was exactly until I got a bunch of them and I took them to an old lady in a little candy shop. I said, "What are these?" And she says, "Wow, those are shake bark hickory nuts." Oh, okay. Well, those were a little more valuable than acorns, so maybe 5 acorns to a hickory nut. Then you went to the next highest nut, which was harder to get at even. It was the chestnuts. And I think they were called horse chestnuts. They weren't really edible, but they're so pretty. And they're hard to come by because they were in the cemetery. The chestnut trees were all in the cemetery, so you had to go in to a scary cemetery. And they didn't fall from a tree all the time. A lot of them were up there, and they had a prickly shell or skin on the nut. So first you had to find like a board that you could toss up in a tree and knock one of these things down. Then you got the nut in its shell, and you had to peel it. With all the prickers on it, you probably poked yourself a few times. By the time you got the nut out, it was really pretty, but you know, that was a lot of work. And those nuts were really valuable because not too many people could get them. For one thing, the caretakers in the cemetery would be chasing you out as soon as they seen you in there, throwing boards up in a tree. I wonder, what the heck are those kids doing in here? So chestnuts were a high-value nut to have. They were like almost like having $1. Like 100 acorns to a chestnut, or 10 or 20 hickories to a chestnut. But wait, there's more. We had one other super valuable unit of trade, and this is because we were next to an old place called Soldier's Home. And Soldier's Home is where the old soldiers used to be after World War II to recuperate, or just like a nursing home. And every night they would blow taps and give a gun salute, and then they would turn in for the night. Well, it was dark, and the really daring kids would sneak into the Soldier's Home cemetery field where the gun salute was, and they would pick up the shell casings. These are little brass things that, you know, had gunpowder in them. And those, because you had to go through a huge military cemetery, and you had to find these little shells that were buried in the grass someplace, and you'd hope that the caretaker wouldn't come out and yell at you. Those are really valuable. I don't know how many chestnuts those things were worth, but those were like, if you were somebody, you had a couple of shell casings, you know, a pocket full of chestnuts, you were doing good. Most little kids just had a couple of acorns and maybe a hickory nut here or there, whatever they could trade. And you do that for whatever kids wanted to trade for, you know, whether it was baseball cards or bubble gum, or time to play on a, you know, a wagon or swing set, or, you know, doing dares and bets and things like that. That was kid exchange. That was back like in like 1962 to 1966. We had that system set up, and it worked great. So I just thought I'd mention it, that sometimes economies build themselves, and the economies don't need gold. There was no gold in that economy. It was just nuts and some shell casings. And it worked great for us. And at that time, it just seemed like the regular American money wasn't much use to us, because we didn't care for shopping much anyway. And our nickel or 10-cent allowance was plenty to get us stuff, you know, like bubble gum or candy at the grocer's. So I just thought I'd share that with you, because that's the way economies can go. Until later, we'll be seeing you.